ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। So very few people today. Okay, so what should we do? Should we continue or should we have some question and answers? Any ideas, thoughts? Should we go ahead with fourth chapter, fourth verse? No response.
Yeah, I think we can go ahead, bro.
Okay. Okay, so chapter 4, verse 4. Okay. Arjuna Vacha aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvataha katam etad vijaniyam tvam madhav proktavaniti. Arjuna said, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed the science to him? Purport. Arjuna is an accepted devotee of the Lord, so how could he not believe Krishna's words? So Prabhupada is saying accepted devotee. What does an accepted devotee mean? Accepted means that he is in the parampara. So we also have to become accepted devotees of the Lord. Because if we don't get connected to the parampara, then we will not be accepted. Then we are devotee. Unofficially, we are devotees. So while people sentimentally they think that they are devotees of Krishna, but Krishna doesn't accept unless we come in parampara, because actually we don't understand what bhakti is. Bhakti actually means that Krishna gives himself up to the devotee. He comes under the control of the devotee. So Krishna is very concerned. So Krishna tells Narada Muni, Muktim dadati. I will give mukti, but I will not very easily give bhakti. So by our own endeavor, we cannot get bhakti. We cannot get bhakti by our own endeavor. So unless we are recommended to Krishna, so we have to be recommended by somebody. Somebody needs to recommend us, saying that, please accept this devotee. Who can recommend us? Those who are already devotees of Krishna can recommend us. So those who are in the disciplic succession, they have to recommend us. Then they will recommend us to their guru. Then their guru will recommend to their guru, and so on and so forth. Finally, goes till Radharani. Radharani is such an exalted devotee of the Lord that she thinks, oh, this devotee does better seva than me. So Krishna, please accept him or her. So she's so compassionate. So she thinks that even some little insignificant seva we might be doing, but she will recommend to Krishna saying that no, he's very sincere and she is doing better service than me. Please accept. So when Radharani recommends, then Krishna accepts us. So that is why we say, till initiation. Initiation means actually initiate. The word initiate means start. So what is starting with initiation? Spiritual life is starting with initiation. Till then, what are we doing? Till then, we are practicing. Till then, we are practicing so that we can be accepted in the parampara. So it's a practice to be accepted. So the spiritual life that we are practicing before initiation is practice so that we can get accepted. It is like, if somebody has a match and they are practicing before the match, they are practicing before the match so that they can play in the match. So we have to be accepted by the parampara. And of course, see, when we get accepted in the parampara, we should understand we get empowered, we get mercy. We'll be able to do things that we couldn't have even thought of doing otherwise, because we get the mercy of the devotees. So that is why we have to surrender to a guru, bona fide guru. Surrender means offer ourselves at his lotus feet, so that his mission becomes the goal of our life. The way he wants to serve his guru becomes the goal of our life. Diksha doesn't mean, unfortunately, many people just take Diksha as a matter of, it's just like some ceremony and I got some name, spiritual name and some, Tulasi beads. And if we don't surrender ourselves to the instructions of Guru, if we don't serve, service is very, very important, right? If we don't serve in the mission of Guru, then we are only initiated in namesake initiation. Because Diksha Kale Bhakta Kare Atma Samarpan. Atma Samarpan. We have to surrender ourselves to the Guru. So we should be ready to do anything that the Guru wants. So it's very important to be accepted, to become an accepted devotee of the Lord. So Prabhupada is saying, how could he not believe Krishna's words? Because he was an accepted devotee. That means that he was in the parampara, he was, authorized, etc. So how come he is not able to believe Krishna's words? What Krishna said? Krishna said that I gave this, knowledge of this science to sun god many millions of years ago. So now Arjuna is asking, how is it possible? Because Vivaswan, he was born much before you. He's very senior. How can I understand? He is not saying, how can I believe? It's actually very nice, right? Arjuna is not saying, how can I believe you, Krishna? You cheat. No. He's saying, I cannot understand what you're saying. I don't have the intelligence to understand what you're saying. So when we are reading Shastra, we should have the same view. We should have the same perspective, saying that I can't understand something that is there in the Shastra. It is not wrong. It is absolutely right. Just that I am not able to understand. So Arjuna is saying, how can I understand you? How can I understand what you're saying? Please explain. Please clarify. The fact is that Arjuna is not inquiring for himself, but for those who do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or for the demons who do not like the idea that Krishna should be accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For them only, Arjuna inquires on this point as if he were himself not aware of the Personality of Godhead or Krishna. As it will be evident from the 10th chapter, Arjuna knew perfectly well that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the fountainhead of everything and the last word in transcendence. Of course, Krishna also appeared as the son of Devaki on this earth. How Krishna remained the same personality of Godhead, the eternal original personality, is very difficult for an ordinary man to understand. How can the unborn take birth? If the Supreme Lord means he doesn't have birth, But how come this unborn has taken birth? Of course, his birth is not like ordinary birth. If you read from Bhagavatam, we actually understand saying that Krishna actually appeared in the heart of Vasudeva. And then from there, he got transferred to the heart of Devaki. And then he appeared directly from the heart of Devaki in his four-armed form with his crown and beautiful curly locks of hairs and four arms. Just imagine, small Vishnu with four arms. So he didn't appear from the womb of Devaki or like, like a seminal birth. Krishna is always there within our heart. He just made himself visible to Devaki and Vasudeva. That's it. Of course, for the Lord to be present he's present in everybody's heart, but only a devotee realizes that the Lord is present in his heart. And that state is Vasudeva Sattva, it is called, because it was the state of Vasudeva who had, who into whose heart the Lord entered, right? Like, so that state is called Vasudeva or Shuddha Sattva. So only when we reach that Shuddha Sattva state does actually the Lord make his presence in our heart. Like I said, Lord is present in everybody's heart, but he will make his presence. He'll manifest, as in he will reveal himself. So only and so we have to purify our hearts. Our heart is full of kachada, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, all dirt, unwanted stuff. We have to clear our heart from all this nonsense. Then only Krishna will appear. Then Brahma Samhita says, Preman janachurita bhakti vilochanena santas sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yamsham asundaram achintya gunaswarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Only one who is anointed with the love of Krishna, whose eyes have the ointment of love of Krishna, he can see Krishna in his heart all the time. Krishna is there in his Nama. Nama is himself non-different from Krishna. Reading Bhagavad Gita, non-different from Krishna. Bhagavatam, non-different from Krishna. But only a pure devotee will feel the presence of the Lord in the pages of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, etc. For others, it is just some knowledge. So it's very difficult to understand how somebody says, okay, Lord is there, is sound incarnation. How is it possible? Can't understand. Lord is Achintya. He cannot be grasped by our limited intelligence, limited senses. Sevan mukehi jivadav. Sevan mukehi jiva adav. Starting from the tongue, only in the mode of service does the Lord reveal himself. Therefore, to clarify this point, Arjuna put this question before Krishna so that he himself could speak authoritatively. So Arjuna could have told about the Lord, but Arjuna thought, okay, Krishna is here, let him only speak. Of course, then Arjuna also, then Krishna tells Arjuna saying, now you make the promise, Name Bhakta Pranashati, because people might not believe me, because many times, I might just look like I broke my word on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. People might not believe me, but if you tell Arjuna, you are my devotee, if you tell, they will believe me. So like this, devotee wants Krishna to say, Krishna wants devotees to say. That Krishna is the supreme authority is accepted by the whole world, not only at present, but from time immemorial, and the demons alone reject him. Anyway, since Krishna is the authority accepted by all, Arjuna put his question before him in order that Krishna would describe himself without being depicted by the demons who always try to distort him in a way understandable to the demons and their followers. This is called interpretation, personally motivated interpretation. Demons interpret Bhagavad Gita, interpret Krishna in their own way, in a way that suits them. Like Dr. Radhakrishna said, that don't surrender to Krishna. When Krishna is saying Manmana Bhakto, Krishna is saying, don't surrender to me, but surrender to the unborn in me. What does that unborn mean? So he's thinking that Krishna also has Atma in him, like we all have Atma. So he's saying that don't surrender to Krishna, but surrender to the Atma in Krishna. So that means that according to Dr. Radhakrishna, Krishna and Krishna's body and Krishna's Atma are different, like in the case of normal living beings. But Krishna's body and Krishna's Atma are not different. They're all spiritual. There is no difference. So demons cannot understand Krishna. Namam dushkrutino moda prapadyante naradamaha maya aparta gnana asuram bhavam ashrita. So those who have partaken of this demoniac nature, who don't want to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they will go down to hell gradually, Krishna says. It is necessary that everyone for his own interest know the signs of Krishna. Nate swarthagatim, for his own interest. Therefore, when Krishna himself speaks about himself, it is auspicious for all the worlds. To the demons, such explanations by Krishna himself may appear to be strange, because the demons always study Krishna from their own standpoint. But those who are devotees heartily welcome the statements of Krishna when they are spoken by Krishna himself. Actually, this is true. You know, when in Bhagavad Gita or in Bhagavatam, when there is something like Krishna said or Vishnu said, you know, it feels like, oh, Lord is himself speaking. Right? Who will get such an opportunity to hear actually the actual words of Krishna? Right? So when we speak Bhagavan Vacha, we should understand saying these are actual words spoken by Krishna. When we reach a stage of perfection, we can actually hear him saying this. But till then, we should reread and understand that, okay, this is Krishna's words. So it makes the devotees happy. The devotees will always worship such authoritative statements of Krishna because they're always eager to know more and more about him. The atheists who consider Krishna an ordinary man may in this way come to know that Krishna is superhuman, that he is Sachidananda Vigraha, that he is transcendental, and that he is above the domination of the modes of material nature and above the influence of time and space. A devotee of Krishna like Arjuna is undoubtedly above any misunderstanding of the transcendental position of Krishna. Arjuna's putting this question before the Lord is simply an attempt by the devotee to defy the atheistic attitude. Defy means reject or disprove of persons who consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being subject to the modes of material nature. So Arjuna is like, you know, like I keep saying, Prabhupada, when he's preaching, he wants to make sure that Arjuna is not misunderstood. So in the purports of the first chapter, mostly he is talking about Arjuna being a very pure devotee. How he is qualified to be a pure devotee, to be very virtuous, etc. Right? Why? Because otherwise people will misunderstand him. So similarly here, Arjuna doesn't want people, Arjuna knows that people are already misunderstanding Krishna, but he wants to remove that misunderstanding. So he's now wants Krishna himself to speak about his position so that atheists can understand, because otherwise atheists or impersonalists, they want to just think that Krishna is some, you know, some light, very ridiculous proposition. Okay, verse 5. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava charjuna tanaham sarva veda sarvani natvam veta parantapa. So personally I've got it. Krishna is speaking. Many, many births, both you and I have passed. I can't remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. Purport, beautiful purport. In the Brahma Samhita 5.33, we have information the many, many incarnations of the Lord. It is stated here. Advaitam achyutam anadim ananta rupam adyam purana purusham navayavanam cha Vedeshu durlabam adurlabam atma bhakto govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Advaitam, there is nobody equal to him. Achyutam, he never falls from his position. He might become the charioteer of Arjuna. He might become a messenger. He might be a doorkeeper. He became the doorkeeper of Bali Maharaj as Vamanadev. He can become anything, but he's Achyuta. He doesn't fall down from his position of being the Supreme Lord. Anadim, very old. He's been there from very ancient times. Anantarupam, his form is unlimited. We cannot understand his form. In Krishna's Vrindavan Leela, Krishna shows his unlimited form. He shows Virat Rupa. He shows the whole universe in his abdomen, in his stomach. Like he opens his mouth and Mother Yashoda could see the whole universe, and then she could see herself and Krishna also. It's unlimited. How can understand? How can somebody understand? Adya Purana Purusham, Navayavanam cha. Navayavana. Fresh youth. If somebody is youth, you can understand what is freshness of youth. I become old. I've forgotten what is fresh youth. But when we look at Krishna, we can understand what fresh youth is. He's, when we hear 64 qualities of Krishna, it's so beautiful that we cannot actually so he's like 16 years, but he's not like 16 years. Chintya, because he's Kishora. Even eternally in Goloka, he's Kaishora age. Kaishora is up to 16 years. Lord has an eternal age in Goloka. The Navayavanam. He's not like old. Like we become old. Fresh youth. Vedeshu Durlabam. Vedeshu Durlabam. We're talking about understanding Krishna. If one understands the whole of Veda, still it is Durlabha. It is very difficult to understand Krishna. But Adurlabham, it is Durlabha for one who knows the Vedas, but it is Adurlabha for whom? Atma Bhaktau. It is Adurlabha. It is not difficult for his devotees. Pure unalloyed devotees it's not difficult for them to understand Krishna. Of course, we can understand Krishna only to the extent of our surrender, to the extent of how clean our heart is, to the what type of relationship we want to build with him, what type, how we want to serve him. So there are various considerations based on that Krishna will reveal himself. One more Brahma Samhita verse. Prabhupada is like ecstasy. Ramadimurtishu kalani amena tishtam nanavataram bhuvaneshu kintu Krishna swayam samabhavat paramapumanyo govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Ramadimurtishu kala niyamena tishtan. So the Lord takes many incarnations, such as Rama, Narasimha, etc. Nanavataram akarot bhuvaneshu kintu. Krishna swayam samabhavat. He also incarnates personally. Krishna swayam samabhavat. So he himself also incarnates. Paramapumanyo Paramapuman. He is the Paramapurusha. He is the supreme person. Govindamadi Purusham tamaham bhajami. So the Lord is limitless. So he is telling here that, see, I have had many, many, many births. Not like our birth. His birth is transcendental. Like I said, he appears and disappears. He appears when he wants, he becomes invisible when he decides to wind up his pastime. And of course, Krishna's Leela is Nitya. His Leela is called Nitya. Nitya means it is going on eternally, continuously. One after after one universe, then next universe, then next universe, then next universe, because there are unlimited universes, and the Lord is also unlimited. So these pastimes continuously keep going on. In the Vedas also it is said that the Lord, although one without a second, manifests himself in innumerable forms. He's like the Vaiduria stone, which changes color yet still remains one. All these multi-forms are understood by the pure unalloyed devotees, but not by a simple study of Vedas. Devotees like Arjuna are constant companions of the Lord, and whenever the Lord incarnates, the associate devotees also incarnate in order to serve the Lord in different capacities. See, this is the beauty of Krishna Lila. We always are there for service. So we are looking forward to serve. So wherever Krishna goes, his associates will go. So wherever Guru goes, his disciples will go. So we should always keep looking out to serve, serve, serve. That is like Prabhupada said that, Krishna consciousness is not armchair philosophy. It's not like we just sit and talk about philosophy for hours together. And then when it comes to seva, and say, no, we are discussing philosophy. It's okay. No, practical seva has to be done. Which means that preaching, taking care of the deities, offering bhoga, all of these are services. We should engage in service, glorifying the Lord, offering prayers in his glorification. Arjuna is one of these devotees, and in this verse, it is understood that some millions of years ago, when the Lord spoke Bhagavad Gita to Sun God, Arjuna in a different capacity was also present. So Arjuna was also present. So he's saying, like, I spoke, you don't remember. So Arjuna was there. Now, we don't know in what form, that's why Prabhupada is saying in different capacity. But the difference between the Lord and Arjuna is that the Lord remembered the incident, whereas Arjuna could not remember. That is the difference between the part and parcel living entity and the Supreme Lord. Although Arjuna is addressed herein as the mighty hero who could subdue the enemies, he is unable to recall what had happened in various past births. Therefore, a living entity, however great he may be, in the material estimation, can never equal the Supreme Lord. But we are always continuously trying to mimic the Lord, to be mini enjoyers, mini gods. Every moment we are trying to enjoy. We are trying to enjoy. We are trying to enjoy independent of Krishna. We want to look at our position and think, okay, I am mini God. Mini God. But we are not mini gods. If we try to act like mini gods, we will become dogs. Anyone who is a constant companion of the Lord is certainly a liberated person, but he cannot be equal to the Lord. The Lord is described in the Brahmita as infallible, Achyuta, which means that he never forgets himself, even though he is in material contact. Therefore, the Lord and the living entity can never be equal in all respects. Even if the living entity is as liberated as Arjuna. Although Arjuna is a devotee of the Lord, he sometimes forgets the nature of the Lord, but by the divine grace, a devotee can at once understand the infallible condition of the Lord. He sometimes forgets the nature of the Lord by Lord's wish only. Otherwise, a pure devotee, even in his dreams, cannot forget Krishna and his position. Consequently, these descriptions in the Gita cannot be understood by demoniac brains. Krishna remembered acts which were performed by him millions of years before, but Arjuna could not, despite the fact that both Krishna and Arjuna are eternal in nature. We may also note here that a living entity forgets everything due to his change of body, but the Lord remembers because he does not change his Sachidananda body. He is Advaita, which means that there is no distinction between his body and himself. Everything in relation to him is spirit, whereas the conditioned soul is different from his material body. And because the Lord's body and the self are identical, his position is always different from that of the ordinary living entity, even when he descends to the material platform. The demons cannot adjust themselves to this transcendental nature of the Lord, which the Lord himself explains in the following verse. So like Arjuna desired, Krishna is fulfilling his desire. He's explaining about himself. So these verses are so beautiful. From this verse 6 onwards, Krishna is explaining his. This knowledge was not even spoken to Brahma. When Krishna speaks to Brahma, the Chatushloki Bhagavata, the 4 shlokas of Bhagavatam, he's only talking about his, in his capacity as the creator of everything, and that everything emanates from him. Janmadi asyataha, everything comes from him. But he's not talking about confidential topics. He's not talking about confidential topics. But to Arjuna, he's talking about more confidential, most confidential topics. That is why one who can read and understand Bhagavad Gita in disciplic succession, he becomes a devotee at once, without need for any kind of mental speculation, imagining what the Lord might be, etc. Because Krishna has told exactly the goal of life. Who he is, who we are, what is our goal, everything Krishna has revealed in Bhagavad Gita. But see, this Bhagavad Gita has been there for years now. If you ask people, you ask different people, what is the most important verse in Bhagavad Gita? Different people will say different things. So what do you think? Anybody wants to attempt? What is the most important verse in Bhagavad Gita? Hare Krishna. Anybody wants to try? So some people who are focused on karma, they say karmanyavadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, ma farma karayet. Okay, sarvadharman parityaja. Okay, Madhurya Mataji saying sarvadharman parityaja. Some people say karmanyavadikaraste. But what is the most important confidential instruction? Of course, sarvadharman parityaja is also, but there is something more confidential than that. Manmana bhava mad bhakto. Yes, Anuprabhu. Manmana bhava mad bhakto. That is what Krishna is saying. Krishna, that is the ultimate. That is the ultimate. He's telling the path for perfection. So how can somebody who read Bhagavad Gita conclude that Krishna is impersonal? Will we go and stand in front of a light and do pranam light? No, Krishna has to have a form. How can we think about light? We can't simply think about some light. We have to think about Krishna. So Krishna is proving his personal form, what is the goal of life, how to achieve it. So the whole description of devotion there in that verse. Prabhupada has revealed this to us. Otherwise, we can't understand all this. Okay, so we might just be able to do verse 6, and others we will continue in the next session. Ajopi san abhyayatma bhutanam ishwaropi san prakritin swamadhisthaya sambhavamyatma mayaya. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my own original transcendental form. So Krishna is saying he is unborn and his transcendental body never deteriorates, and that he is the Lord of all living entities. Still he appears in every millennium. The Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of his birth, which is, although he may appear like an ordinary person, he remembers everything of his many past births. Whereas a common man cannot remember what he has done even a few hours before. It's peculiar, it's very special. If someone is asked what he did exactly at the same time one day earlier, it would be very difficult for a common man to answer immediately. He would surely have to dredge his memory to recall what he has done exactly at the same time one day before. And yet, men often dare claim to be God or Krishna. One should not be misled by such meaningless claims. Then again, the Lord explains his Prakriti or his form. Prakriti means nature as well as Swarupa or one's own form. So Krishna is talking about his own form. He says that he appears in his own body, which is transcendental. He does not change his body as a common living entity changes from one body to another. The conditioned soul may have one kind of body in the present birth, but he has a different body in the next birth. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jatare shayanam. So Janani is Jatara, which means the womb of the mother we will enter. What type of mother we don't know. In the material world, the living entity has no fixed body but transmigrates from one body to another. The Lord, however, does not do so. Whenever he appears, he does so in the same original body by his internal potency. In other words, Krishna appears in this material world in his original and eternal form with two hands holding a flute. Flute. should hear about Krishna's flute from Bhagavatam, Venu Geet. He appears exactly in his eternal body, uncontaminated by this material world. And we are completely contaminated by this material world, though we are actually spiritual, qualitatively non-different from Krishna. Just see how powerful Krishna's material energy is. It has made us forget who we really are. It has made us forget who we really are. We've forgotten that we are eternal servants of Krishna, that we are spirits, that we don't belong to this miserable material world. We've forgotten. How powerful illusion. Although he appears in the same transcendental body and is Lord of the universe, it still appears that he takes his birth like an ordinary living entity. It still appears. Although his body does not deteriorate like a material body, it still appears that Lord Krishna grows from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth. But astonishingly enough, he never ages beyond youth. At the time of Battle of Kurukshetra, he had many grandchildren at home. Or in other words, he was sufficiently aged by material calculations. He was 125 years old. We never see a picture of Krishna in old age because he never grows old like us. Although he's the oldest person in the whole creation, Achintya. Neither his body nor his intelligence ever deteriorates or changes. Therefore, it is clear that in spite of his being in the material world, he is the same unborn eternal form of bliss and knowledge, changeless in his transcendental body and intelligence. And this form of bliss, Krishna's form is blissful. Bhagavata describes, then other scriptures, they describe. When Krishna enters Vrindavan after he grazing the cows from the, comes back from the forest to the village. So all the devotees of Vrindavan, they're all standing there to greet him. Different types of devotees, different age groups. Like there are old people, there are young toddlers, then there are gopas, then there are gopis, then there are his servants, then there are other animals, all kinds of living entities. They are waiting. They're waiting for Krishna to come back. Because Krishna is their life. And Krishna's schedule is very fixed. So they know that, okay, this time Krishna is going to come back. So they are all waiting to receive the Lord. And what does Krishna do? Krishna beautifully reciprocates with each and every one of them as they desire. And it is said that he smiles at everybody. He offers Dandavat pranams to his parents. So he reciprocates exactly the way they desire in their mood of service. Also, it is said that when Srimati Radharani goes to Krishna's Nanda Bhavan to cook, she goes to cook every day for Krishna. So as soon as she enters the kitchen, there are so many other devotees who are there to help, servants, different types of devotees. So it is said that she smilingly greets all of them. She is the supreme devotee, non-different from the Lord. And she greets everybody, like, smilingly. So everything about Radha and Krishna is blissful. Why we should hear these descriptions? When we hear these descriptions, we should feel like, okay, I want to go there. I want to go and serve the Lord there. Not to enjoy. Not to enjoy. We are not saying I want to go to Goloka because I want to enjoy with Krishna. No. Sorry, we will not get entrance for that. We should go to, we should hear all this and say, okay, can I also serve there? Like there are so many people helping Radharani. There are so many people helping Krishna in his pastimes. Can I also help there? Can I also do some service? So we should get inspired to say, okay, I want to do service in Goloka Vrindavan, in presence of Radha and Krishna. Because it is unimaginable, the bliss that the jiva derives in their service. Of course, it's not like, we have to we can experience that only there. We can experience that here also when we engage ourselves in service. But just the personal presence of Radha and Krishna is empowering, is, what should I say, is, yeah, no words. Like it's unbelievable. We have to only be there to experience, kind of. And it's full of bliss. Krishna and his Gopala friends, all kinds of jokes. They're pulling each other's legs, and like Prabhupada says that, when they're going to the forest, one person suddenly steals another's lunchbox, and that lunchbox is thrown to the third person, like, children play. And then that person whose lunchbox was taken, he is like very sad, and he becomes, very distressed, and he starts like crying. Then, his lunchbox is then given back. And then Krishna makes all kinds of sounds of various animals, pretends like he's a tiger and wants to scare his friends. So whole day in Vrindavan is blissful. His Rupa itself is blissful. Bhagavatam says how Lord Krishna smile. So Krishna is always smiling. So for a devotee is attached to the lotus feet of Krishna. And then he's also attracted by the smile of Krishna. So everything about the Lord is blissful. And he's never contaminated by material nature, though it might seem like, oh, how is that Krishna is crying in front of Yashoda in Damodar Leela? Krishna is crying. Almost there are tears in his eyes out of fear. But that's not because tears are basically mode of ignorance. When we cry, we are in mode of ignorance. But Krishna doesn't come under the mode of ignorance. This is his Leela Shakti. This is not his external energy, Bahiranga Shakti. It is his internal energy, Leela Shakti. Is never contaminated by material nature. The Vedas also confirm that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unborn, yet he still appears to take his birth in multi-manifestations. The Vedic supplementary literatures also confirm that even though the Lord appears to be taking his birth, he is still without change of body. In the Bhagavatam, he appears before his mother as Narayana with 4 hands and decorations of the 6 kinds of full opulences. His appearance in his original eternal form is his causeless mercy. Okay, this word is very important. Causeless mercy. Causeless mercy means we can never think that I deserve Krishna's mercy. We cannot deserve Krishna's mercy. We cannot think that we deserve it. So which means that now Krishna has to give his mercy. No, it is causeless. Causeless means that it just depends on our sincerity of our practice, of our surrender. And then Krishna gives his mercy. When he sees that, devotee are surrendered and fully wanting to follow his instructions in spite of all difficulties. That is why I keep encouraging so many devotees here in our group. There are so many difficulties they are facing, so many difficulties. Every time I think about them, I feel like really, they are the real gurus. When they overcome all these difficulties and then other devotees associate with them and hear how much they went through all these difficulties, other devotees will get motivated. They will become inspired to do bhakti. So the Lord is, he gives his causeless mercy. That is why Bhagavatam says, Tatte nukampa susamikshamano Gunjaya evatma vipakam. A beautiful verse, right? I said the other day. What is that? 10, 18, 8. What did I say, Ravindra Babu Prabhu? That day I said, told the verse number, no? 10.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah, Mataji, will know.
10.14.8.
14, thank you. 14. 10, 14, 8. Beautiful, actually. Tattenukampam susamikshmano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam shudvagvapurpir vidadam namaste jive tayo mukti pade sadaya bhak. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. And of course, for us, liberation doesn't mean Sayujya Mukti or any of the other types of moksha. It just means that we will engage in the Lord's eternal service, because it becomes his rightful claim, becomes his claim. So please don't get discouraged by the struggles you're going through. It is glorious. It is glorious. Pray to Krishna for strength. Pray to, if you have taken shelter of Guru mentally, pray to him. Lord will bestow his causeless mercy. No doubt. He's already bestowing and he will bestow, continue to bestow. Is his causeless mercy bestowed upon the living entities so that they can concentrate on the Supreme Lord as he is and not on the mental concoctions or imaginations, which the impersonalist wrongly thinks the Lord's forms to be. The word Maya or Atma Maya refers to the Lord's causeless mercy. According to the Vishwakosha dictionary, the Lord is conscious of all his previous appearances and disappearances, but a common living entity forgets everything about his past body as soon as he gets another body. And we forget everything, but still we are so attached to this body, so attached to everything connected to this body. Everything will be gone. It'll all be gone in course of time. He's the Lord of all living entities because he performs wonderful and superhuman activities while he's on this earth. Therefore, the Lord is always the same absolute truth and is without differentiation between his form and self, or between his quality and body. A question may now be raised as to why the Lord appears and disappears in this world. This is explained in the next verse, which we will discuss in the next week, Krishna willing. So he performs wonderful and superhuman activities for what? So that he can attract us. So that he can attract us. Because we are so attracted by things of this material world that he is attracting us with his name, form, quality, pastimes, everything. So the Lord eternally performs. Okay, so let me just end this recording for here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.